Welcome to Quews.news, a platform for overseas Pakistanis where they share their views uncensored and speak from the heart about their homeland and be a part of the discourse shaping its future. I'm Waqas Majeed Khan, and in this episode of Politics and Current Affairs, we're talking about the situation in Pakistan. In the backdrop of recent events, we'll discuss the shenanigans of the political parties and the powers that be. We witnessed chaos on the streets of Lahore and Islamabad and pitched battles between the police and supporters of a certain political party. We're going to try and make sense of what's really going on. A few stories and themes we shall discuss include the effect of social media on Pakistani politics and the rise of keyboard warriors on both sides of the divide, the negative and destructive polarization we see in Pakistani society today as a result of political rhetoric used by politicians and their supporters. The other themes we'd like to touch upon are the role of the establishment in Pakistani politics, a little bit of historical context, and the way forward. I'm pleased to introduce my esteemed guest in the studio. Joining me for the discussion, we have Tariq Suleman, a scholar, academic, doing his PhD on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and a founding member of Bloomsbury, Pakistan, a think tank working on improving governance. Thank you for being in the studio, and welcome. To begin with, Mr. Tariq, let's address the elephant in the room. In our history of 75 years of the independence of Pakistan, we have not seen a single prime minister complete his term in office up to this day. So what do you think is the main reason behind that?
Well, if we see the current government makeup, that tells us a lot. That we thought, or at least the current government was telling us, that 2018, it came into being a hybrid government. So establishment brought one government, and that's what they didn't accept. And the narrative was that military was running from behind. And today it continues. Though the one government has gone, one prime minister has gone, and the new prime minister has come in, but that arrangement, that dispensation of hybridity still remains. And interestingly, today, if we look at the political landscape, and we see one issue at least on which there is a general consensus, and that is that military's intervention in politics should end, and it should end now.
Well, that's an interesting thing, because we also have the same sort of sentiment being echoed by the military establishment itself, and where they have recently come out in the open and said that our meddling in politics days are over and behind us. But do you actually believe them? Because generally people in the country, they take that information with a large, not a pinch, but an entire mountain of salt when they hear that. Do you think there's some truth to that now?
The truth is that in itself is politics, and that's how they framed their new political stance. And that politics, that's why I said that even if that hybridity continues in its previous formation, but their stance has changed from actively supporting sitting prime minister to being neutral. But without their political support, this current government cannot remain in power.
Well, looking at the situation right now, there are people who say that we have two camps now. We have the PDM government, which is being supported by the military establishment, and we have the PTI, which is being supported by the courts. And there's this sort of a tug of war going on between these two big institutions of the country. Where do you think this is going to eventually lead to?
We tend to see things in black and white, and we just see that this is that tug of war going, and there's constitutionalists, these are the people who are Democrats, and those people who don't support those certain stances, they are anti-democrats and anti-constitutional in their stance. But things are not that simple. If from academic point of view, we look at these things from distance, and we see that this whole chaos was natural to come in the way Pakistani political landscape has been for the last 70 years.
But do you think that the military establishment, who claims that they have learned their lessons, bitter lessons from history, and don't want to repeat the mistakes, are actually have learned their lessons, or do you think it's just lip service and no lessons have been learned?
Education and learning is not one of our strengths and of any section of our society, so I seriously doubt anyone, including the political parties and establishment, are going to learn anything from this chaos.
Well, there are always two elements to a country's sort of existence. There's the internal politics that we are talking about, but there's also the external politics of the global political scenario, which has an impact on foreign policy, on even domestic policy in certain cases. So in Pakistan's case, how much influence do you think the global politics has on domestic policy in Pakistan? Do you think it has some impact?
I see it, yes, absolutely, because you do not operate in a vacuum. It's international relations from within which your country, your national state operates. But I see Pakistani politicians and establishment role in politics slightly differently. Instead of saying that it's the external actors which come into play in that sense, I think that our foreign policy and our foreign policy roles are the extension of our internal politics. Domestic politics extension is what brings those other foreign actors in our politics in Pakistan.
Do you think that the influence of superpowers, especially like the influence of the Americans, or now we have the Chinese, and Pakistan is kind of sandwiched between the interests of these two giants, and we have been walking a really tight rope between, balancing our relations with these two countries. Where do you think Pakistan's future really lies? Because we have, a lot of dependence on the US, and at the same time the Chinese, and they're fighting with each other. Where do we go?
As I said, learning has not been our strength. We could have learned from non-aligned movement that walking on that tightrope is really not that difficult, especially when two superpowers are pitched against each other. We could have benefited from that, but we decided not to. And we have not learned anything from that. Today, even now, as it stands, we are still at the same place where we were in when we joined CETO and NATO.
That's rather unfortunate. Again, you've been working with this organization, Bloomsbury, that you've tried to set up in Pakistan. Tell us a little bit about that. What's the agenda? What's the idea behind it?
The idea was to, looking at Pakistan, and we thought that we are fortunate to be situated outside Pakistan, and we, instead of being influenced from all those events and being unable to influence them, the place we are from where we could easily provide some kind of help or support in terms of political literacy. That was the original idea on which we established that.
Political literacy is something that is an important aspect of any society, but people believe that Pakistani society is very politically mature and they really do know what's going on despite what the powers think. And we've seen that in many ways, but do you think that that level of maturity that we need to achieve in order to have a fully functioning democratic society has been reached yet?
When I was growing up, I learned politics from my barber shop. So in Pakistan, when I look at it today, it has grown from that small one barber shop to the whole of the country. And I see those type of politically, emotionally invested debates from television panels, from all these talk shows. So I think politically we are quite immature nation, and we do need political literacy.
And how would you go about making people politically aware in the sense that you're talking about?
See, that's one of the things that we intend to start some kind of dialogue, some kind of research-based dialogue where we could at least bring out what we as a nation are. So it's like showing mirror to ourselves in Pakistani society. There was recently a beautiful book by Lum's professor, Mr. Ali, that shows that the way we perform in cricket, the way we play cricket, it depicts the national character. So I think that when I went recently to Pakistan, I saw on the roads that character playing out when we are driving on the roads, when we are having any commercial activity in Pakistan. So I intend to start soon a research program where we could do some research on how we as a nation, what are those determinants of our thinking and behavior which plays out as a nation and which we can highlight and bring the nation in that dialogue.
Well, I think that's a very noble idea and a noble cause, and I hope and pray for your success. I hope that people also accept that, and also that the powers that be allow you to sort of raise that level of awareness, political awareness that you're talking about. What we've also seen over the past few months is that a lot of credit has been given to a certain political party for raising the political sort of aptitude of the people, or even just motivating people to get more involved in politics, especially the middle classes that were sort of, indifferent before. And we see that a lot of credit is being given to Mr. Imran Khan for mobilizing the middle class and galvanizing that political sort of, what you call, awareness in the people, and mobilizing them to be more active in the politics of the country. Do you agree with that?
See, previously we said that we have not learned from history. We have seen all these things previously in Bhutto's time and People's Party's launch. What we have not learned is that when we emotionally mobilize people and we polarize the nation and pitch them against each other, they come out bruised. We do not go forward. We do not develop out of that place where these political leaders, and especially demagogues, I would say that in that sense, that I still don't know what Imran Khan stands for, what's his policies, what is he going to bring in when he comes in government. He does not speak about that either, but most of his politics, which has mobilized the masses, as you said, brought certain aptitude to fire, and he has practically, I would say that certainly he has boiled certain things, bring certain things to boil, but emotionally, not made them think for a second that what was going on is due to these certain policies, and we should learn and we should...
Let's dig a little deeper into that, because we've had this phenomena of technology having a very profound influence on the politics of the world. And social media is one of those most powerful tools that we have seen Mr. Imran Khan use to his great benefit. And we've also seen the other parties that are kind of left behind, and they've not been able to grasp the power of social media as much as the PTI has. Do you think that has had an effect, whether good or bad, on the overall political landscape? And how do you see it going further?
Definitely. All that, when I browsed through that, scanned through social media, I realized that 99% of stories coming out, 99% of quotations coming out, statements of different people are coming out, all forged in that envelope of that new technology, you say social media. But people are not trained to go through and analyze or dissect this type of information coming through and understand what's behind that and how to digest that inundating rivers of floods of data coming through. But they can only especially we are at a stage where, as I said, we do not have that political literacy, and we are unable to understand certain kind of discourses. We become inadvertently part of it.
But
and that social media is one of that.
Do you think that social media has given a voice to the people where they were earlier completely disenfranchised from sharing their views? But you have technologies such as Twitter and of course YouTube and all these other platforms that are now available for ordinary folk to just sit and start talking about things that they could never talk about, and even get their voices heard by the powers that be. Do you think that's had a positive effect, or is it a good thing?
I doubt anyone is listening to these voices. These voices are still voiceless if we understand the impact they are making. They are being used. And I think that because of all that social media, and people think that people have got voices, people do not have voices. They get, how should I say, there are certain factories which are producing certain kind of news, forged news, and those news are becoming part of that discourse, and people think that these are their voices, but these are not people's voices. They have deprived them of the voice they could possibly have.
So now it's just noise.
It certainly is noise.
And the voices have been drowned in the big ocean of noise, and nobody is really hearing anything.
Absolutely.
Well, that is an unfortunate aspect to it, but at the same time, it's also provided a new battleground for people to contest their ideas. For example, you've got individuals using the platforms of YouTube to push their political agendas, and you've got pitched battles literally going on between these, characters who are on YouTube and, doing propaganda 24/7, spreading disinformation. What do you think about this phenomena, and do you think it's damaging, or do you think it has some productive silver lining as well?
I think it has damaged a lot so far. But again, having said that, as you said, there are, especially, we saw that after 2018 elections, when that regime couldn't stand dissent, and lots of media personnel, anchors, journalists were forced out of jobs, and they opened their YouTube channels, they opened their own social media outlets from where they were giving a voice to their opinions, and continued that dissent. And that was a wonderful avenue, at least they had, and people could reach out to them. And that is a positive thing, I think, is likely to strengthen gradually. The more people get educated, the more people understand, and they could understand that they are being fooled by these dominant discourses coming from all over the place. And
so this is the debate between the mainstream media and what we call the phenomena of social media, where people are allowed to, not allowed, maybe they can actually practice some semblance of free speech, where they can share their ideas uncensored, because you have the state machinery in many countries across the world. It's part and parcel of any state machinery to control the media as well, and to control the discourse, and basically make it just propaganda at the end of the day. What happens to the pursuit for factual truth, or we're trying to achieve a point where humanity can actually have a coherent conversation which is productive and future-oriented, rather than destructive and, conflict-ridden?
See, as you said earlier, that Imran Khan, or the current opposition, has given that awaken their certain attitude or certain awareness, as they are saying. If this type of drumming down, is that type of chaos comes to a halt, and there is some semblance of stability, that is the time when this type of media can make a difference, and people can accept that as a different voices coming from different segments of society, and they become part of a grand dialogue. But currently, the way things are, I doubt if that's going to be much helpful at this moment, as it is when two sides are pitched against each other and using that media just to demolish each other, just to have an indoctrination campaign going on, just a propaganda machine.
But do you think
no truth is coming out of these things?
Do you think that even works? Do you think that I can convince you of coming around to my sort of thought process, or do you think I can convince you to follow my leader, or the one I support, as a result of my, campaign on social media? Or do you think it's really a pointless exercise, because people are so entrenched and ingrained in their own ideas and in their own sort of, support for leaders, that it doesn't really matter? I mean, I could be talking to a wall as far as that is concerned.
That's how one feels these days. But I think that should not dissuade us from airing our own opinions and at least trying to convince or put our voice there. But in one aspect, you're right, but because it was the establishment's discourse which has helped Imran, and now Imran is using that discourse which had become so powerful. He has not invented that discourse. That was the military establishment used to bring him in. And now that discourse continues. And you and I might not have the resources and the power to bring a new discourse to demolish that, but at least we can try.
Coming back to the original question of, we've never seen a single prime minister complete his term in office, and we were hoping that Mr. Imran Khan, who had massive support from the military establishment when he was brought in, would probably achieve this feat. And we saw that even he fell from favor, and that was the end of his PTI government. But at the same time, if you look at the events previously, prior to the toppling of the government, what did you think about Imran Khan's popularity? Do you think he was as popular at that point in time when he was before he was brought in?
Imran Khan, one of the reasons I think military miscalculated their moves was that he was at his lowest popularity scale when he was thrown out of the government. And they thought that that's it, probably. They can get away with that. Which they realized that, and he did mention that if I'm out, I'm more dangerous outside than inside, which he did prove right in that sense. But interestingly, today I was saying that there's one agenda, one issue on which the whole nation seems to have consensus is that military establishment has to end. But the problem is that political polarization is to the extent that government establishment can easily enjoy its intervention and
but don't you think at the same time
on that?
At the same time, when Mr. Khan was very unpopular at that point in time when he was toppled, suddenly we see his popularity go through the roof. Do you think that that might be the reason why his government was removed, so that he could be brought back again? Is that some kind of a plan?
These conspiracy theories are rife out there, but I doubt it seriously. The people who removed them, they removed for certain reasons. That was not one of that.
All right, so we leave it at that, and we will be talking about these issues further in our programs. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but thank you so much for sharing your views with Quews. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we've been joined on the line from Pakistan by Mr. Mia Arsalan. He is the Director of Programs in PTV World, in fact, and manages all the current affairs and news in PTV World. So we're lucky to have him with us. Thank you for joining us, Miaji. And if you would just tell us, what do you think is going on in the political arena in Pakistan? How do you see the delay in the elections, and do you think there's going to be more agitation to try to bring them forward? How do you see the situation?
Okay, thank you very much, Waqas, for taking me in your show. It's a pleasure and honor for me. Let me tell you one thing. Pakistan is in at the moment in deep political crisis. 2 days ago, Election Commission of Pakistan has announced that Pakistan won't be seeing elections in KPK and Punjab this April, and they said that now the elections will be held in Punjab on 8th or 9th of October, and similarly KPK Governor Khyber Pakhtunkhwa's governor said that elections will be held in KP Assembly for KP Assembly in October also. And today Imran Khan is also going to hold a rally in Lahore, Punjab's capital, and we don't see that in near future Pakistan will be having any kind of political stability. Imran Khan is agitating for early elections. Government which is comprises of 8 political parties. PDM, Pakistan Democratic Movement, is shying away from elections because of a current economic crisis. People are facing a huge inflation in Pakistan. as a history, and we can't say that in 2023 Pakistan will have any kind of elections for KP, Punjab, or even federal their governments.
Yes, sir, but also tell us about the IMF program, because we've been waiting to hear about the money coming in from the IMF to improve the situation in Pakistan, but it seems that the goalpost keeps moving and we are not seeing the support coming in. We're not also seeing the support traditionally that we've seen from the friendly countries. How do you view this development, and do you think it has an impact on the elections?
Yes, it definitely has an effect on Pakistan's election. ECP in its 8-page letter to the parties told that one of the reason is because Pakistan is in deep economic crisis, and government don't have uh, uh, capital with them for elections, and they don't have money to invest for the elections. That's why they said that Pakistan will not have elections in KPK and Punjab, and Pakistan can't afford two elections, one this KPK and Punjab assemblies, and then after a few months general elections. It's very unfortunate that Pakistan was not able to get IMF's deal this time. Pakistan is trying hard, trying to implement conditions, but conditions keep changing. Now, the recent demand from IMF is that Pakistan must get sureties from friendly countries that they will help Pakistan, and they will pledge some money other than IMF's program. So Pakistan is trying to get sureties from these friendly countries, but it's very unfortunate that Pakistan is not able to get on a paper these sureties on paper. That's why IMF's deal is not sealed yet by the government. But this delay in IMF deal is having a very huge toll on Pakistan's ordinary people, Pakistan's masses, because Pakistan is witnessing 36 to 46% of monthly inflation, and people are suffering. This holy month of Ramadan, Pakistan is saying huge increase in daily commodities like fruits and vegetables, and people are on the road. There are huge queues for a free floor scheme by government of Pakistan, where they are trying to provide free floor to the masses, and we are witnessing that there are huge queues and lines for this free floor from government of Pakistan.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate, and we've seen the developments with a lot of worry over here as well. Mia Saab, one last question before we end the conversation. How do you view this latest development between Saudi Arabia and Iran and their normalizing relations? What impact do you think will it have on Pakistan, good or bad?
Okay, from Pakistan's point of view, I think that it's a very good move for us also, because in recent past, Pakistan was very cautious in maintaining its relationship with Saudi Arabia and Iran because of their rivalry. Pakistan was facing a few difficulties, like ex-Prime Minister Imran Khan went to Iran and then went to Saudi Arabia, and a few of his statements caused confusion between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia because of Iran. Now we see that if these two countries get on good terms and have good relationships, so Pakistan will see definitely positives from this development, and this will have very good effect as far as Pakistan's economy is concerned, on Pakistan's economy as well. So we are hoping that the situation will definitely improve in future, and this will have a few good results for Pakistan as well.
Well, thank you very much, Mia Arsalan from PTV World, for sharing your views with us, and we will hopefully be in touch with you for further analysis as well. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Thank you very much.
All the best. Well, you heard the conversation, and as always, I like to say that a wise man once said that don't believe of half of what you see and none of what you hear. Use your discernment. And on that note, it's goodbye.